This video is brought to you by TS4U IT Engineering Bootcamp.
Tell me something about yourself, about your last project.
Sure. So actually, I have been working on the two projects recently, and one of the project is they are both based on the microservices. One project is migrated into monolithic to microservices. Another project is purely microservices. The e-commerce platform, one of the project I'm working on the multiple features that I'm responsible from the backend point of views, front end, and the actually database validation. So before we go details, let me lay out the entire foundation, what I do. So we follow the Agile Scrum, and we have a 2 weeks sprint. We have a sprint planning. We have the sync up call. We have the sprint review meeting. We have the technical and the code review meeting. We have the quality review meeting for the test cases. We have the triage meeting for the bug review. We have the release meeting and retrospective meeting before we start the new sprint. As part of the process, the part of the sprint planning, I get to know my user story. I get to know what of the user story is going to be getting worked on, and based on my understanding, we have a couple back and forth conversation, and I actually clarify my user story before I estimate. Once my estimation complete, I think that's the trend of the planning meeting, and so the sprint start. We have the daily stand-up, which is 15 minutes. We have actually two ways. One is our team decided one is the text-based in the internal chat group, and another is actually the sync-up call for 15 minutes, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So that's our process. And while the developer actually start developing the story, my user story, I start actually developing the test cases, drop test cases for the API and for the GUI as well. But in the beginning, based on the user story, I focus on the backend API user story more than actually the front end, because that's our based on the specific user story. I prepared the test data. I prepared the test cases. So for the API testing, we are using the Postman for the testing tools. And for the API specification details, we use the Swagger. So before going to the details, let me go over the features I am very passionate and working on. I'm actually working on the product management and the customer review and the user profile. These are the three features I am responsible. For the user profile, the user management, this is actually the core feature that all other the QA actually dependent on this feature. I am actually go-to person for the entire feature. It means the other feature they're working on, they actually touch the user management, such as user sign up, user sign in, the forget password, the OTP, then the profile update, returning something. This is all part of the user feature. And the product management is updating product, adding new product, removing new product, update the product inventory and the product description, a product quantity. There is hundreds of features of the product management. Another feature is review. The review is how the customer actually giving the review of each of the product. What type of review is coming, requesting the customer to update the review, requesting customer to give the review on the product, requesting to customer that if they improve their review, we'll be giving them something free as complimentary, changing them, and after the replacing a product, then we actually the asking for the review again. So there is like the hundreds of user story for the review feature. So these are actually in a nutshell about the project. But so all these features I'm working, all the APIs is driven, each of the feature, we use the Swagger for the API specification to understand each of the API payload, API method, API the request body and the response body, and actually I can try it out each of the endpoint on the Swagger. So that actually this is where I get familiar with my API. Based on this done, then actually I import the entire payload into the Postman. That's the way we are using the Postman. In the Postman, actually the way I design my feature, my feature name is the workspace. And then my each of the user story is my actually the collection. For the each of the collection, I have the positive the collection, negative collection, positive test cases in the positive collection. I'm adding each of the test cases as detailed as possible. In the negative collection, I'm actually adding all the negative test cases. I actually use I'm responsible for the development environment, test environment, and staging environment. So that I'm actually using the environment variable to separate each of the environment so that I can use the same endpoint, the same collection in the three separate environment. I have the 3 sets of data so that I actually passing the data and then doing the testing. I do the functional testing, positive testing, negative testing, smoke testing, regression testing, database testing on the Postman collection. I have designed each of this collection separately and actually delivered them when it is needed. Smoke testing, I run when the release happen immediately. The functional testing, it runs through the Jenkins CI/CD pipeline every day because we deploy the code every single day in our staging environment. Functional testing I do based on the new user story just released. The regression testing I do based on actually the existing API that is not touched on this sprint. And the data-driven testing I do because of my multiple product I add, multiple product I remove, multiple product parameter I change. So all these the parameters I add on the Excel document, actually I run them hundreds of test cases I run through my data-driven testing. And then of course, for each of the test cases, I have the details. I have the details test cases, and I have actually the test assertion. For each of the test assertion, I am adding the status code. I am adding the proper validation, other validation. I add actually the schema. And my test case assertion is meaningful that everyone understand. I actually got recognized just to see my test case writing style. How? Give an example. I do not write expecting 200 status code. I write as a buyer, I want to see this product is populated on my page. Or as a seller analyst, as a seller, the reviewer, I want to see the review from the buyer on my portal. Actually, those give meaningful name I provide to link my user story. So after my testing is complete, I actually attach my test cases on the user story, and then I update my task. That's actually the journey on my backend testing. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
I have not touched the database. I have not touched the UI. I give you guys, ask me the question so I can answer.
Perfect. That was a very good answer, very detailed.